All right, let's talk about something I'm pretty sure we can all agree on: chocolate. We're going to get into the future of our favorite treat today, and, well, the truth is a little bit bitter.
Okay, be honest. Have you ever unwrapped a chocolate bar and just thought to yourself, wait a second, wasn't this bigger? It's not just you. There is even a name for it: shrinkflation. And when you combine that with prices going up, our favorite treat starts to feel, a lot less like a treat. And trust me, it is definitely not just your imagination.
So, what's really going on? Well, the price of cocoa, the very heart of chocolate, has shot up by an absolutely staggering 400%. And that's just in the past year. I mean, that is a huge spike, and it's our first big clue that something is deeply wrong in the world of chocolate. And here's where it gets even trickier. Let's take the UK as an example. A whopping 91% of all the cocoa beans they import come from countries that are extremely vulnerable to climate change. You can probably see where this is going. It's basically the definition of a perfect storm.
So yeah, let's dive into that bitter truth. Because those smaller, pricier candy bars, they're not the actual problem. They're just the symptom of a much, much bigger global issue that's threatening the very source of chocolate itself.
To really get it, we have to start with the plant itself, the Theobroma cacao tree. And this isn't just any old tree. It is incredibly picky about where it grows. You could even call it a fussy plant. And right now, it is under a world of pressure.
See, this tree can only really grow and be happy in a very specific sliver of the planet called the cocoa belt. Think of it like a thin tropical ribbon of rainforest wrapped around the equator. That's pretty much it. Our entire global supply of chocolate depends completely on the health of this one very narrow little strip of land.
And this really shows you the problem perfectly. On the left, you've got the cacao tree's dream life: warm, stable, humid, predictable rain. But then look at the right. That's the new reality we're creating. We're talking scorching heat, wild floods, and then sudden droughts. It's literally the exact opposite of everything this poor plant needs to survive.
And this isn't some far-off prediction, okay? It's happening as we speak. In Côte d'Ivoire, a huge cocoa producer that got hit with massive floods, then immediately followed by a brutal drought. In places like Belize and Peru, you've got wildfires and droughts just wiping out entire farms. And in Mexico, it's getting so unbearably hot that young people are just leaving the family business altogether. So naturally, this whole crisis has led to some pretty terrifying headlines. People are throwing around the word chocopocalypse, which, yeah, sounds awful. But let's take a breath and figure out what's real and what's just exaggeration. I bet you've seen a headline like this one before. It went completely viral a while back and caused a full-on panic. I mean, the idea of chocolate going extinct, that'll get your attention. But is it actually true? The short answer, no, it's false. Fact-checking sites like Snopes looked into it and totally debunked the claim. So breathe easy, chocolate is not going extinct. But the real story behind that headline is, well, it's a lot more complicated, and honestly, almost as serious.
Okay, so here's the really important difference. The myth is about biological extinction, like the cacao plant just gone from the earth forever. The reality, though, is a massive supply chain crisis. The places where we can actually grow cacao are disappearing fast, and that threatens our ability to make chocolate at the scale we do now.
And this is the real human story. We're on track that by 2050, huge areas of West Africa, where most of our chocolate comes from, could just become totally unusable for growing cocoa. This isn't just about us getting our favorite candy bar. This is about the 5 to 6 million small-scale farmers whose entire lives depend on this one very fragile crop.
So yeah, that all sounds pretty bleak, I know, but there is a lot of hope. This crisis is actually sparking some incredible innovation, and right now it looks like we're heading towards two totally different futures for chocolate. One looks to fixing the farm, and the other, well, it looks to faking the chocolate.
So let's look at path number 1. This is all about saving the cacao we already have. The focus here is on making the traditional way of farming stronger, more resilient, so it can actually handle the pressures of our changing climate. One of the coolest solutions is something called agroforestry. Basically, instead of clearing land for rows of cacao trees, farmers are growing them in the shade of other taller trees, like mango or cashew. This one simple change has massive benefits. It keeps the delicate cacao plants cool, it makes the soil richer, and it's amazing for the environment. We're talking 2.5 times more carbon stored. It's a total win-win. Now here's a fascinating little twist from the scientists. It turns out that more CO2 in the air can actually help cacao plants grow bigger. But, and this is a huge but, that advantage gets completely wiped out by extreme heat. Once it gets hotter than about 36 degrees Celsius, the heat literally cooks the plant's pollen. No pollen means fewer cocoa pods. And that's why scientists are racing to breed new types of cacao that can take the heat.
All right, now for path number 2. This one is way more futuristic. It honestly sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. We're talking about reinventing chocolate by making it with no cacao whatsoever.
What's so cool here is just how creative these companies are getting. These food tech startups are using things like sunflower seeds, fava beans, even carob. They use special fermentation and roasting processes to mimic that rich, complex flavor and texture of real chocolate, but without ever touching a fragile cacao plant. And if you thought that was futuristic, hold on. Let's talk about cellular agriculture. This is literally the science of growing food from cells. So for chocolate, that means instead of growing trees in a field, we're growing cacao cells inside giant tanks called bioreactors.
This just shows you the incredible potential. Companies can take the cells from just one single perfect cocoa bean, they put those cells in a tank, feed them some nutrients, and just let them multiply. The result is pure cocoa, grown in a lab that can be totally customized for the perfect flavor, bitterness, or even the way it melts in your mouth.
So okay, we've got smarter farming on one hand and lab-grown chocolate on the other. What in the world does all this mean for you, the person who just wants to enjoy a good piece of chocolate without an existential crisis?
Let's just boil it down to 3 key things. First, this isn't a maybe problem. The threat is real, and it's happening right now. Second, there's a ton of hope, and it's coming from amazing innovation in both farming and food science. And third, and this might be the tough one to swallow, the days of super cheap, buy-it-by-the-pound chocolate are probably coming to an end.
And that really just leaves us with one last big question to chew on. When you think about the environmental impact, and you think about the millions of farmers who are struggling to survive in this new climate, what really is the true cost of that cheap chocolate bar?